You ever meet someone who seems calm on the outside? Like real chill, real composed? But you can just tell something deep inside them snapped a long time ago. That's Count Dooku, the man, the myth, the walking red flag with a lightsaber. He didn't show up yelling or smashing stuff like Anakin. No, he just looked the Jedi Order dead in the eyes and walked away with the slow confidence of someone who already knew how the whole story ends. And what's wild is, the Jedi let him go like it was nothing. Like, oh well, one of our most brilliant minds just quit. Guess we'll light a candle or something. They didn't chase him, didn't try to bring him back. They acted like losing Count Dooku was no big deal. Which is hilarious considering the dude immediately joined the dark side and started planning a galaxy-wide civil war with a straight face and perfect hair. But the real punch in the gut is that Dooku wasn't trying to burn the galaxy down. He genuinely thought he was saving it. And maybe he was onto something. Because when you look at how rotten the Republic had gotten, and how clueless the Jedi had become, you start to wonder if he was actually the sane one in the room. Like the guy who says, maybe we shouldn't clone an army overnight, and gets kicked out for being too negative. There's something heartbreaking about that kind of fall. Not explosive, not dramatic, just quiet, slow, inevitable. Dooku didn't dive into the dark side with lightning in his eyes. He drifted there with disappointment on his face. Like someone watching their favorite band sell out and play at a mall food court. You don't rage against that, you just kind of mourn it. And the crazy part is, he still carried himself like a Jedi, all the way to the end. Still graceful, still disciplined, still quoting philosophy, while force-joking senators behind closed doors. It's like watching a Shakespearean actor get cast in a soap opera, but still deliver every line like it's Hamlet. Elegant, it's tragic, and just a little bit ridiculous in the best way. In this video, we're diving deep into how Count Dooku went from the Order's golden boy to one of the most quietly terrifying villains in the galaxy. We're talking betrayal, philosophy, Jedi hypocrisy, and why Dooku didn't fall to the dark side. He was pushed, slowly, and no one ever looked back. We don't usually talk about Count Dooku the same way we talk about Anakin, or even Maul. He's just that classy guy with the red lightsaber who sounds like a Shakespearean villain and dies halfway through the second movie. But what if I told you that Dooku's fall wasn't just a twist in the story? It was one of the most quietly tragic betrayals in Star Wars history. Before he was Darth Tyrannus, he was a master who actually believed in fixing things. And instead of being heard, he got ghosted by the Jedi, like a bad Tinder date. There's this weird mystery around Dooku that makes him more interesting the deeper you dig. Like, why did someone so respected and so powerful just walk away from the Order? Was it some grand evil scheme, or was it just good old-fashioned burnout? If you watch Tales of the Jedi, you start seeing the cracks form years before he turns to the dark side. It's not one big betrayal, it's death by 1,000 small ones. Missed chances, ignored warnings, and a council that thought silence was wisdom. He was the master of Qui-Gon Jinn, and that right there tells you a lot. Dooku trained the most rebellious Jedi in the galaxy, and actually encouraged his skepticism. That's not a Sith move, that's a mentor trying to push someone to think. He wasn't some cackling villain obsessed with power. He was a guy looking around at a crumbling republic, and asking if maybe, just maybe, the Jedi should do something about it. And of course, that kind of radical thinking doesn't go over well with a group that's allergic to change. Every time Dooku raised a concern, the council just gave him that polite nod and moved on, like he didn't just call out a massive galactic problem. It's like bringing up corruption at a board meeting and getting offered a muffin instead of a solution. He wasn't the problem. He was the only one brave enough to say there was one. So now the question becomes, was Dooku ever really lost? Or was he just left behind? Because maybe, just maybe, if someone had actually listened to him, we wouldn't even be talking about a clone war at all. Alright, let's be real. The Jedi dropped the ball harder than a drunk Gungan juggling thermal detonators. How do you lose Count fricking Dooku and act like it's just another Tuesday? This guy was a decorated Jedi master with decades of service and serious influence. And they let him walk out the front door like he was quitting a job at Space Starbucks. You know what's maddening? They never even tried to stop him. No intervention, no accountability. No, hey, maybe we should talk before you abandon the Order and potentially destabilize the entire galaxy. They just shrugged and acted like it was all part of the plan. And then had the gall to act surprised when he showed up working with the Sith, like he just got recruited by LinkedIn. This whole story starts to feel less like a villain origin, and more like a tragedy that no one wanted to see coming. Count Dooku wasn't some cartoon bad guy twirling a mustache. He was a broken idealist, a man who believed in the Jedi way so deeply that it shattered him when the Order failed to live up to it. You can feel the sadness in Tales of the Jedi, watching him mourn Qui-Gon's death, hearing him speak with such bitterness about the Council's failures. That wasn't anger, it was grief. Grief for a world that slipped away, for students he couldn't protect, and for a future he thought the Jedi were supposed to shape, not run away from. The way he cradles Qui-Gon's loss feels like more than just losing a friend. It's losing hope itself. Qui-Gon was everything Dooku hoped the Jedi could be: brave, compassionate, and unafraid to challenge the status quo. And when he died, when the Jedi did nothing, Dooku's last bit of faith just broke. That's what makes his fall so painful. It wasn't some seductive promise of unlimited power. It was loneliness. It was watching the people he trusted most turn a blind eye to injustice, and then realizing that the only ones willing to act were the Sith, who at least pretended to care about change. So yeah, Count Dooku fell. But he didn't jump. He was pushed. Slowly, silently, and with just enough force to break a man's heart without anyone noticing. But here's the wild part. Even after all that heartbreak and betrayal, Dooku didn't become some unhinged Sith monster. He stayed calm, composed, terrifyingly intelligent. In a way, he became something the galaxy had never seen before. A Sith who truly believed he was saving it. Think about that. He wasn't driven by hate like Maul, or consumed by fear like Anakin. Dooku's villainy came from logic, purpose, a twisted sense of duty. He saw the Republic dying, saw the Jedi asleep at the wheel, and decided he was the only one with the guts to do something about it. He built the Separatists into a political force, not just an army of droids. He had ideals, structure, a vision for a new galaxy. He didn't want chaos, he wanted order. Ironically, that made him more Jedi than the Jedi Council at times. They were reactive. He was strategic. They followed the code. He followed results. And let's not forget the man dueled Yoda and nearly beat him. Count Dooku wasn't just strong, he was precise, controlled, elegant. The way he moved in battle was almost poetic. He made lightsaber combat look like an art form, not a brawl. You don't have to agree with him to admire the sheer presence he brought to the story. Dooku wasn't a Sith stereotype. He was a new kind of villain, the kind you almost wish was right. His story wasn't a total loss, because if Dooku taught us anything, it's that questioning the system isn't betrayal, it's a warning shot. A healthy order needs dissenters, skeptics, people who care enough to ask the hard questions before it's too late. And you see that spirit live on in people like Ahsoka. She left the Order too, not because she hated it, but because it stopped living up to what it was supposed to be. And just like Dooku, she tried to help, only to be turned away. The difference is, she kept going. Even Luke picked up that legacy in The Last Jedi, cynical, disillusioned, but still hoping for something better. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Dooku walked so others could eventually run, even if the path he walked was shadowed. And now, with stories like Tales of the Jedi bringing his pain into the spotlight, maybe we're finally starting to get it. Maybe the audience is catching up to what he knew all along. That being a Jedi isn't about blind loyalty, it's about doing the right thing, even when it hurts. So yeah, Dooku's legacy is messy, tragic, complicated. But inside all that darkness, there's still a glimmer of light trying to fight its way through. In the end, Dooku's story isn't just about the fall of a Jedi, it's about the failure of an entire generation to see what was coming. He wasn't some rogue dark-side addict. He was a mirror, showing the Jedi everything they refused to acknowledge, and they shattered it instead of facing the reflection. His descent into darkness didn't come from greed or vanity. It came from disillusionment, from watching his ideals rot while the galaxy smiled and called it peace. And when he reached out, when he tried to spark change, the silence that answered him was deafening. That's what makes Count Dooku one of the most haunting characters in all of Star Wars. Because he didn't fall screaming into the abyss like Anakin, he slipped quietly into shadow, with his eyes open the whole time. And nobody, not one Jedi, ever tried to pull him back. He became the villain, yes? But not because he stopped believing. It's because no one believed in him when it counted. And that hurts more than any lightsaber ever could. So the next time you see Dooku walk onto the screen, don't just see the Sith Lord. See the man he was, the hero he could have stayed, and the tragedy that came from being right, far too early, and far too alone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.